Okay guys, we are going to continue with our lesson. So this is the AC method, and we are going to use it as a last resort when nothing else works, because maybe it is it's not efficient if you're gonna use it in every factoring question. Okay, so I will summarize what we have said in the chart. The first thing, before we do any factoring, the first step we have to do is to look for common factors. Okay, then we see if we have two terms, we try to factor as difference between two squares. If we have three terms, we go to the right part of the chart. I hope that you have wrote all the steps, but if it's three terms, after we look for common factors, we try to see, first thing, we check if it's a perfect square or not. If yes, factor the perfect square. If not, if A is 1, factor right away. Look for two numbers multiplied to C and add to B. If it is not a perfect square and A is not 1, use the AC method. Okay? So now I'm going to give you a few examples. Maybe how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 examples that have everything that 6 examples have everything we have covered. So let's say factor 28a squared b minus 63b. So again, we are following the steps. So the first step is we try to look for common factors. What is the highest common divisor among 28 and 36? I think it is 7. So 7 out. What is common between a squared b and b? B. Then we divide each term by 7b. So that will be 4a squared minus 9. Okay? Now 7b stays, and we try to factor the quadratic that is left. This is two terms, so we are working with the left side of the chart. Perfect square minus perfect square, so yes, difference of two squares. So 2a minus 3, 2a plus 2, and we are done. Okay, so this is the first example. Let's go to the second example. Example 2. Factor x squared plus 11x plus 24. X squared plus 11x plus 24. Alright. First step, always look for common factors. Nothing is common. Okay, now this is two terms or three terms. This is three terms. So the right hand of the chart, the right side of the chart. Is this a perfect square? A is a perfect square, but C is not, so it is not a perfect square. Okay, not a perfect square. Is A1? Yes. So right away, we open two brackets. We put x and x. We think of two numbers multiplied to C and add to B. What are the two numbers that multiply to 24 and at the same time add to 11? If you don't know, do all the factors, but it is clear that it will be 8 times 3. So we put plus 8 plus 3. And we are done with the factor. Okay? This is example 2. Example 3. 3m squared. 3m squared plus 9m minus 30. Okay. I don't jump right away and say, oh, AC method. No. First, we look for common factors. Yes, 3 is common. So what remains inside? M squared plus 3m minus 10. Now, 3 stays, and I want to factor this. This is 3 terms, so the right side of the chart. A is 1, the number in front of m squared is 1. So right away, I look for two numbers multiplied to negative 10 and at the same time add to 3. numbers that multiply to negative 10 and add to 3. If you don't know, make all the possibilities negative 10 and 1, negative 1 and 10 until you find it. But it will be positive 5 and negative 2. Those multiply to negative 10 and add to positive 3. Okay, so m plus 5, m minus 2. Always check your answers. Like in today's homework, when you want to check and see if you're right or wrong, you FOIL and you multiply by 3 and see if you will get back to the original. Right? So this is example 3. Example 4. 4y squared plus 7y minus 2. Again, what we do, we look for common factors. Nothing is common. I cannot see anything common among those. So, I will try to do perfect square, see if it's a perfect square or not. Is A a perfect square? Yes. Is negative 2 a perfect square? Negative numbers are never perfect square. I cannot find the square root of a negative number. So, this is not a perfect square right away. So, is A 1? No. So, our last resort, the last thing we can do is to try to do this as AC method. So, how we do AC method? We multiply the A and the C to get negative 8. Then we need to think of two numbers, multiply to negative 8 and add to positive 7. Yes, 8 and negative 1. What we're going to do with this, we are going to rewrite the original quadratic, but we're going to break the middle term using 8 and negative 1. We know that 7y is the same thing as 8y minus y, minus 1y. So that's how we're going to do. We're going to write it again. Instead of the middle term, we are going to put 8y minus y minus 2. This is the same. This and this. I didn't change anything. I just wrote it in a different way. Now we are going to factor by grouping. So the first and second term together, 4y is common. That will leave y plus 2. When we have a negative 1 here, it's always factor it out. So negative, and that will leave y plus 2. Now when we look at this and that, we find that y plus 2 is common. So we factor it out, and that will leave 4y minus 1. And we are done with the factoring. Okay? So we use the AC method because no other factoring process will work. I cannot do perfect square. A is not 1, this is 3 terms. So I use AC method. Example 4. Yes. Was 4 or 5? Yeah, 4. No, this is 5. It says 9y squared minus 12y. Okay. 9y squared minus 12y plus 4. I want to factor this. So, first step, common factors. No common factors. Right? Second step, 2 or 3. Second thing, we need to decide we're gonna go to the right side or the left side of the chart. This is 3 terms, so the right side. Okay. First thing, we need to check if this is a perfect square. Yes, A is a perfect square, C is a perfect square. Square root of 9 times square root of 4 times 2 will equal 2 times 3 times 2, which is 12. So yes, this is a perfect square. How we factor this? We open one bracket, we put a square here. Square root of the first, so square root of 9y squared is 3y. Sign of the middle, so minus. Square root of the C, which is 2. Okay? I'll do one more. one more. Example 6. X cubed minus 10x squared plus 21x. First step, look for common factors. Yes, x is common, so we factor the x out. We divide each term by x, so x squared minus 10x plus 21. Then we try to factor whatever between the brackets. This is 3 terms. It is not a perfect square because I cannot find the square root of 2. A is 1, so right away I open 2 brackets. I put x and x. I need to think, oh sorry, it's 21. I need to think of 2 numbers multiplied to 21 and at the same time add to negative 10. 2 numbers multiplied to 21 and add to negative 10. We can do them one by one if we cannot find it right away. 1 and 21, yes, multiply to 21, but don't add to negative 10. Negative 1 and negative 21 also. 3 times 7, that's positive 10, not negative 10. Negative 3 and negative 7, yes, this is what we want. So negative 3, negative 7, and we are done. Okay, so this is a summary of all the factoring process, and this is what you're going to see on every evaluation. I'm not going to tell you factor using the difference between 2 squares or factoring using AC method. I will give you a factoring question and you will find out which way to use. So this is what you need to know in this unit. This is actually summary of all the factoring. Okay, what you need to do today is to do the last page of the package I give you from number 1 to number 24. Check your answers by foiling and see if you get the answer back, the quadratic